Hello there. Hope you're doing well. I'm Hardleg Joe, if you didn't know, and today I'd like to take a break from my usual educational content and instead talk about a current-ish event and something that I think maybe we can learn from it. So to start with, let me lay out some background info. If you don't know what the title of this video is referring to, there was a Harry Potter game released recently, and it caused a bit of a controversy. You see, J.K. Rowling, the creator and owner of Harry Potter, is what many people would consider to be an anti-trans activist. And I don't mean she says bad things about them on Twitter. I mean, she does do that, but she also uses her fame in a way that has a real impact on the world. Like, she works to influence politicians, she gives support to bigoted organizations, and she advocates against laws that would really help out trans people. In many ways, her actions have had an actual, measurable effect on the world. She's made life worse for a lot of people who already have it pretty rough. Which is why some have argued that if you care about trans people, you probably shouldn't buy the new Harry Potter game. Or any Harry Potter merch for that matter. Because all of her influence stems from the success of that franchise. The better it does, the more fame she has, and the more damage she can do to society. If we could successfully boycott all the new Harry Potter projects, if we could make them fail financially, then game companies and movie studios would stop making new projects. Over time, Harry Potter would fade in relevance, which in turn would make her irrelevant and limit the influence she has. Now, as you might expect, there was a lot of pushback against this idea. Some of it was just from other anti-trans people who like what JK does, and I'm not super interested in discussing that part of the controversy. I already made a video all about trans people and the culture war in general, and you can watch that if you're curious as to why I oppose people like Miss Rowling. Now, the argument I want to discuss is the claims of hypocrisy. Online, I heard this argument from several different people, said in multiple different ways, and it really caught my attention. It's something worth discussing. The main idea goes something like this.
Boycotting this game is hypocritical. You say you want to help people, and yet I bet you're using a cell phone right now. Don't you know that the lithium used in cell phone batteries is mined using slave labor? By purchasing and using a cell phone, you're supporting a company that hurts way more people than J.K. Rowling ever could, in far worse ways. So unless you're willing to give up your cell phone, you shouldn't ask others to give up the new Harry Potter game.
This seems like a fairly reasonable argument at first glance. And that's because most of what they're saying is true. The companies that make cell phones, like most companies, are nefarious and unethical. There is a lot of slave labor that goes into manufacturing cheap electronics. And on some level, buying those products helps contribute to that system. The only place they're wrong is in their conclusion, that it's hypocritical to boycott the game and not boycott your phone. And to explain why, let me present you with a little hypothetical situation. Let's say you're walking down the street, and you see two little kids fighting by the side of the road. To be more specific, one kid is just absolutely beating the crap out of the other kid. One is on the ground crying, and the other is mercilessly kicking them. Would you step in to try and stop that? Would you break up the fight? I imagine that most of you would, because you care about the well-being of children. You don't want to see them hurt, right? But you know, there's several wars going on in the world right now. In Ukraine, in Syria. And a lot more kids are getting hurt in those conflicts in much more serious ways. You say you want to help kids, and yet I'm willing to bet that most of you haven't signed up to help fight in those conflicts. You aren't actively protesting those wars. I bet many of you haven't even donated to support the doctors and nurses who are helping kids. So does that make you a hypocrite? I mean, it's really easy to say you want to protect kids. It's really easy to stop one fight when it's right in front of you. But can you do that in good faith when you aren't willing to do something significantly more difficult? That's essentially what the previous idea asks of you. It says, unless you're willing to put in the hard work to save all the kids, you shouldn't bother to do the easy thing of saving just one. Now that example is a bit extreme, but hopefully you see my point. Doing good in the world is about doing what you can, when you can, for as long as you can. It's about making good choices when the opportunity presents itself. You have to be ethical, yes, you have to have morals, but you also have to be practical. You have to measure the effort involved against the results. If you see a fight and you have the ability to break it up, then you should. But you're not responsible for breaking up all fights everywhere. And if a fight is too big, if you would just hurt yourself trying to step in, then you shouldn't feel like a hypocrite for staying out of it. You've got to know your limits and work within them. Figure out what you can do and do that. But don't worry about the things outside of your control. And don't put in a ton of effort to do something if it's not going to have a very big impact. The same is true when it comes to video games and cell phones. I won't be giving up my cell, because it would do very little to lessen the power of huge multinational mining companies. And it would require a huge life-changing amount of effort to accomplish. Like, I literally need two-factor authentication to stream on Twitch. My job requires me to have a cell phone. Most jobs these days do. In fact, I'd argue that in 2023, you need a cell phone about as much as you need electricity. Like, yes, you could technically live without it, if you want to be a hermit in a remote mountain cabin. But if you want to take part in society, a cell phone is necessary. The Harry Potter game is not. No individual game is. Like, don't get me wrong, entertainment in general is very important, and games are absolutely works of art, things that can move you in ways that will change your life. But there are literally millions of games out there to choose from, and I doubt the open world wizard game is going to be the one unique experience that revolutionizes how you look at the world. Like, let's be honest here, most people are going to play this for a week or two, and then move on to the next thing. It's not going to be a significant or important part of anyone's life. So you can skip it and suffer no consequences. In fact, you can save money by not buying it. Now, of course, boycotting this game is not going to have much of an impact on J.K. Rowling. It would take many failed projects over a few years before her credibility really began to suffer. But it's an incredibly easy thing to do. It takes zero effort. So even if it barely has an impact, even if it's only the start of something, even if it only makes the world 0.01% better, I still think it's worth it. Like, you can help improve things by doing literally nothing. Which is why it's so frustrating that so many people are unwilling to do that. Now, I should be clear here. There are people online who are going out of their way to harass people who stream the game and call them transphobic. There are people who are making death threats to anyone who buys it. And I don't agree with any of that behavior, for several different reasons. But I understand why they are so upset. Because helping out trans people was as easy as not playing a game. And millions of people looked at their friends and said, no, I'm sorry, I must pretend to be a wizard. It is critically important. More important than helping you out. And maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe I'm being a little bit mean here. Because it's possible that that's absolutely true. Like, I don't know you. I don't know your life story or what your priorities are. It's possible that you legitimately need this game to get through your week. Because things have just been so bad. It's possible that this bit of nostalgic wizardry is going to be the thing that helps you survive another week. And if that's the case, then I hope you enjoy the game. Like, honestly, I'm not gonna shame you for it any more than I already have. At this point, you know my concerns, and if they don't mean anything to you, then I'm not gonna harp on it. Like, I'm disappointed, but I'm not gonna hold a grudge over something so small. I'll just reiterate my point from earlier. That doing good in this world is about doing what you can, when you can, for as long as you can. I don't think boycotting this game will do a lot of good, but I think it'll help a little bit. So if you can go without this game, without this franchise, well, there's a lot of people out there who would really appreciate it. Myself included. But yeah, that's all I really had to say on this topic. I know it's probably too late to have an impact on this specific game, but I wanted to get the general idea about helpfulness out there. Because there's so many people I've seen who either through cynicism or depression have just given up on even trying to improve the world, on trying to make things better. And I get it. It can feel like an impossible task sometimes. But the fact is, nothing is going to improve unless we take action. And no amount of action is too small to make a difference. If you take away anything from this video, it's this. Don't let anyone convince you that you shouldn't try to help, or that your actions don't have some impact, because they absolutely do. As I often say on this channel, big change won't be easy and it won't be quick, but it is possible. We just need the willpower to act, the patience to see it through, and the friends, family, communities, and comrades that'll make that long journey more bearable. But, yeah. That's all I had to say. Thanks as always for listening. I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you'd like to see more stuff on current events, let me know. Maybe I can try to do more of these short one-offs. Otherwise, I'll be back to making more educational stuff for the immediate future. Until then, I hope you have a good day, and stay safe out there.